What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome to Ground Up Faith. This is the show, the series of resources that I provide for you to help grow and strengthen your faith along the way. I have this YouTube channel as well as a podcast of the very same name, Ground Up Faith. And today it is Tuesday, and if you've got 2 minutes, then this is the show for you. This is the show where I take your questions about faith and I do everything in my power to answer them in 2 minutes or less, because let's be honest, we pastor people are oftentimes very long-winded and we don't always give simple, concise, direct answers. So that's what I try to do in this show. So let's get underway and let's see how I can do it. Today's question is, how many animals did Noah take into the ark? Some accounts say 2 animals, some account of each kind. Some say 2 animals of the unclean variety and 7 of the clean variety. So which is it? Great question. Let's get underway. All right, so how many pairs of animals did Noah take into the ark? In reality, we don't really know specifically. What you will notice, though, is that there is a little bit of conflict in what Scripture reports to us. In one part of the story, it says to take 2 pairs of every kind of animal into the ark. And a little bit later in the story, it says 2 pairs of unclean animals and 7 pairs of clean animals, presumably for sacrificial purposes. So little bit of a conflict there. And if we're honest, if we pay attention throughout Genesis and really in a lot of other places in Scripture, a lot of times we get stories that are told to us multiple times where some of the details change just a little bit. And so this causes a lot of concern for some people. That is the Bible true? Can we believe it? That sort of thing. The reality is there are a lot of different ways that people approach their belief in how Scripture works. For my tradition, Lutherans, the ELCA, we don't believe that the Bible fell to us from heaven completely. We don't also believe that God sat down and dictated it to a few people to write down word for word. Rather, we believe that God's people were going about their lives, experiencing God, and as they were doing that, they were first telling stories and later on writing down stories. And eventually they started realizing that sometimes they had the same stories. For instance, the story of Noah's Ark. But maybe one tradition had a slightly different version of it than someone else did. And they wrestled with what to do about this, how to include all these different stories. And sometimes they tried to mesh them up just a little bit. And I can see right here, I didn't actually hit it in my time frame, but I'll finish the thought here. They didn't. Sometimes they tried to kind of mesh it up, but sometimes they left some of the little edges in there where there are some differences and some challenges. And this makes some people really crazy. They spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to connect all these little dots and smooth out these bumps and things like that. But that's not really the way I approach it, and that's not the way a lot of Christians approach it. My brother is a police officer, and he said that anytime they're talking to witnesses following a crime, they don't ever want the stories to match up just right, because that's when they know people have gotten together off to the side afterwards and they've gotten their story straight, so they're not telling the truth. Rather, if there are differences and conflicts sometimes in the reports, that oftentimes lets them know that people just maybe saw things a little bit differently, had a little bit of a different vantage point, maybe focused on other details differently, but they still are bearing witness to the same thing. And I think that's the best way to think about Scripture when we look at all these stories, and sometimes stories that might be getting told in different ways and ways that don't always match up, is that the story is true. It's just the person who's watching it and who's reacting to it and writing it down is paying attention to different details, is focused on it, is concerned and bringing different questions to it. And all of that gets put into Scripture for us to wrestle with. There's no simple way to smooth everything out and make it all simple. So that's kind of my rambling long answer. So the real answer is we don't really know exactly what the number was or anything like that. But that does give us a great window to talk about how we understand Scripture and what it means. As always, thank you for these questions. Keep sending me questions. I love to kind of wrestle with these. They open up a lot of great avenues for us to have conversation on. I would appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to keep bringing you more content, and the more that you interact and subscribe and like and share and all that kind of stuff, that's the more stuff I can do and the more we can all grow our faith together. As always, thanks and God bless. Bye now.